You can't imagine the women pulling him down and hugging and kissing him. And he said, your worries are over. And my mother finished Hebrew Russian gymnasium, so she understood everything and translated it. We were taken to the Russian zone. They were, I can't say anything bad. They were very, very nice to us. You have to also understand, they gave us new clothes. New clothes. I went through, in the concentration camp, something. I would not get undressed. I would not take off in case somebody would notice that I'm a kid, that I am not 12 years old, and maybe somebody would squeal. So I lived. My mother used to cover me when I would wash myself. I lived with this for months. I didn't want anybody to see that I am not a worker, that I am just a kid. So when they gave us new clothes, it was the biggest thing that you can imagine. And they gave us food. And I remember like today, my mother going from woman to woman and telling them in languages. She spoke quite a few languages because there were people from all over. In Russian, that she's a milosrdnaya sestra, means that she's a nurse. And in Yiddish, ich bin a Krankenschwester. That people should not eat so fast. Eat slowly. Remember, you're not used to it. From 41, and some of them are maybe even from 39 to 45, you are hungry. Your stomach is not your stomach. You're not used to anything. And let me tell you, those who didn't listen, even at the time of liberation, stomachs swelled up, and quite a few people didn't make it. We stayed on the Russian zone till the end of the war. It was just now 65 years. Boggles the mind. And then they asked us, do you want to go back to Lithuania? And my mother said, no. We heard that in a city, Lodz, in Poland, survivors are coming, and there are lists of people who survived. Because you have to understand, we were sure if we made it, my father would make it. What about my mother's family from the small towns? She was the youngest. One sister had five sons. One sister had 4 children. Grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, somebody. And they gave us permission. I don't know how much permission they gave us to leave the Russian zone. They told us to travel at night. But they were very nice. And we hopped on a train, and my mother said, schnell, schnell. We were arrested, because schnell is a German word. And they thought maybe we're German spies. That's another story. And we came to Lodz. And let me tell you, I am asked, what is truly the most terrible thing that happened to me? Losing my grandparents, losing everybody else. But you have to understand, I found out that my father, my very best friend, that I went to the museum in Lithuania with him. I saw the opera Aida. In his store was my castle. I could read before anybody else could. I found out that my father didn't make it. I guess, as they say nowadays, I lost it. I was inconsolable. But I still have my mother. And the will to live is very great. And by Jewish people, when you write the word Yid, it has a little dot. It's called a spintal Yid. You have to go on. Because you have to live. and you pull yourself up. No psychiatrist, no psychologist, no counselors. There was nobody. You had to do it on your own and say, I am going on. I will survive. We were taken to the American zone in Austria, in Barracks, a beautiful resort. And this was near Salzburg, a DP camp, a camp, displaced persons camp, people without a country. And naturally, you were asked right away, you have any relative from outside? Mama said, sure, my brother in South Africa, my sister in New Rochelle, and she even told them, and my sister and brother-in-law, and my brother said, and I sponsored them. I gave them money. They came to Montreal. So papers were made out. But it still took, oh yes, and teachers came, counselors came to help us out, to rebuild what you lost. We were there from 45 to March 1948. And the joy, we were told, we can come to Montreal, Canada, because that's where my aunt lived, to start a new life. And in Halifax, I went to visit to tell them thank you, and we came to Montreal. I was 13 years old, and I tell that story, and Paul knows the school. We were called greenhorns in those days. We didn't have any welcoming committees. You had to do things on your own, but you still felt like an outsider. You were an outsider. I learned in the displaced person camp some English. We were like sponges about history. I learned about Israel.